want to get that title. Ah, they don't let you copy. Really? Seriously, Zoom? Ah, that's amazing. I wanted to get the title for it, so I don't have to start up. Well, I guess I have to now. You know, because then when you go live, you need a title for it. But okay. All right. Ah, at least we're starting. At least we're starting.
Excellent.
So I actually always use Zoom on both my phone and the computer. I use the phone for the audio, so there's a better mic, and so it's very nice for that. And also I have poor internet usually. It's better nowadays, but still, then it gives me the audio on the phone and the video on the computer. It's a useful way of doing it as well. Yeah, it's still busy loading.
What's that?
It's still busy starting up, just a little slow. You know, my windows aren't opening so that I can get the information to get going.
Oh.
Yeah, it'll be a second. As soon as I click live, it wants the title and all that.
What is your group called again?
Self-awareness, self-improvement.
Is it with a dash?
Or just type Sensei group, SASI group. Then one word, SASI group. That's the quick way to get to it.
I'm trying to see if I can get it to come up quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's just SASI group, one word, then it comes up right away. Yeah. Your nonsense.
Groups.
See, now everything is giving me all these update stuff. You know.
Yeah, I got it.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. There we go. Enter this. Now I've got two-factor authentication on the computer as well. Enter the 6-digit code from your code generator or third-party app below.
Oh, and it looks like it's going to allow me to add a post, which is pretty neat. So I can actually do it from here. Once we go live, I believe I can add a post from here once I'm able to find the link on the main page. So that will be good.
978-117. Yeah, well, as soon as we go live, I automatically go live in the group itself.
Right, but I'm saying to add to the event.
Oh, I see.
And then also I'll be I'll be tagged with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you know, you can do the event. I set it up in different ways. So they give you the option to do it as Facebook Live, something else, and then as other. So this is just a notification that there's going to be a live in group.
Right. That's why I want to make a post so that they get notified about the post as well. To say, here we are, we'll click here.
Right. Well, we'll go live in a second. I'm just getting that. Okay, so let's see. All right. Okay, here we go. I can't copy anything. Here we go. All right. Now I am ready. Excellent. Okay. So Facebook Live. More. Okay, live on Facebook. Oh, I gotta log into Facebook again.
Yes, with Zoom.
Yeah.
I know Facebook is a pain sometimes.
But it's because it's all new, you see, because of this whole two-factor authentication thing, which they now did is new for me today of all days, right before, never had it ever before.
Yeah, I don't have it on mine.
Yeah, I don't want it, but they forced me to do it on the phone. So I had no choice, unfortunately. Yeah.
I wonder why. I wonder why they forced you and not me.
Well, I hope they don't do it for you. It's a pain. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a benefit for it. It's one of those things that I've been meaning to set up, but I know how much of a pain it is. And then if you lose your authentication method, then you're out of luck.
513. Yeah. Well, I got Google Authenticator on my phone.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
Yeah.
And there is a way to back up those authentications. So that's what I'm going to have to do.
Okay. Yeah. So, I was signed into Facebook, but then I had to sign in via Zoom again.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, wow. Really, people?
Yeah, I've done this before, so I know all about what you're talking about.
Normally I just click and then I go. It's not a problem.
Yeah, not always.
Yeah. There we go. Group. You'd think that, I go to my group every day and I share it to my group every day. You'd think that, it would be the top choice.
I don't know, but here we go. It looks like we're almost
Yes.
going to be live in a moment.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
It says it's broadcasting. So hi.
Yeah, it just was loading it. Hello, Krista. I'm so happy to be here. Trials and tribulations, everything happening in the worst possible way at the worst possible time. But, one survives. One can't let things like that throw us out, right?
Well, I sure know about computer glitches. I've had loads of them. And I have to admit, it's a little bit nice to see somebody else dealing with computer glitches too. Maybe a little, what is that called? Schadenfreude?
Yes.
Something like that, where you're like, oh, well, thank goodness it's not just me.
And I make an effort to be on way ahead of time, be way prepared, have everything ready. But the computer decided to reboot. And then when I went on the phone to get on computer, I was telling you, it asked me to do the two-factor authentication. It never did choose to do today of all days.
And apparently it's not broadcasting to the group.
It should be, let's see, I'll show you.
It is not.
Let me see in the group. Wow.
So I'm not sure where it's broadcasting, but it isn't to the group.
I think you need to refresh.
I've done it over and over. Yep, I keep doing that,
wow.
and it's not here.
Let's see.
So I just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it live in group. So I am. I saw it a second ago. Where did it go?
Well, I don't think it's public to us, to the members. If anyone can hear us live, let us know.
Oh, what is going on?
So Sebastian and I originally met at this exciting networking event called Collaborate. And if anyone hasn't tried this particular event yet, I don't think they've announced the upcoming dates, but I found it to be excellent because it's an event with loads of people who are looking for opportunities to speak, They are podcast hosts looking for guests. They are business owners and partners looking for opportunities to have collaborations with other people. And they're just human beings looking for ways that they can help one another. So I love the concept of collaborate. It's one of the best events I've ever been to. And I don't normally rave about events.
We are live in the group. We are live. There it's showing.
Are you sure it's showing as to all members? Because I am not able to see this live video, no matter how many times.
It will show you now. There was a final confirmation screen that took a long time to come up from Zoom.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was just you live in the group, and you have to click OK.
There it is.
There it is. Yes. So, all right.
It would be good.
I'm gonna do that live in a moment. Yes.
Yeah.
The link. I mean, yeah.
You didn't tag me, so I'm just going to say hello to everybody in the comments.
Yeah.
And attempt to tag my page.
Yeah, there you go. That would be good. All right. So, Krista, please, while I set this up and get all the, pin it and everything and get the link going, please tell us about what you do, what you're about, your whole journey. I'm particularly interested to hear not just your journey, but what's been important to you in your journey and what's important to you now. Because typically, at least I'm assuming, you're now doing what's important to you. So I'm always keen to hear what's important to people and how they got to be doing what's important to them. This is always profound and very valuable.
Well, I am just trying to do something technical at the moment, but
take your time.
There we go. So I just tagged my page for everyone. So I'm with Wise Words That Matter. What's important to me? There are a lot of things that are important to me. I suppose the most important thing to me is to be able to learn from other people, because that's really my passion. My passion is learning, growing, and then being able to write about what I've learned to benefit other people.
Wow.
And hello, Sid. How are you? Thank you for joining us today live. So my story essentially is that it's ironic that I've been helping other people's story. I've been writing other people's stories, telling other people's business stories for years, and yet I haven't shared my own personal and professional journey becoming a business owner, networker, and skier who just happens to be blind.
Fascinating.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was Nina, not Sid. I just heard Sid.
Bina, yes.
Bina, okay.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just, the screen reader is reading, but of course I'm talking at the same time that it's reading, so I'm not really focused on it.
The screen reader, for whatever reason, seldom gets Bina's name right. We get Vina and Nina and everything else except the B. So yeah, it's very interesting how that works. I am fascinated at how you do Facebook and how you do live, and you do it all through audio. This is just incredible to me. I'm just inordinately fascinated and astounded.
So it's interesting that to me, it's interesting that to me, it's just an everyday thing that I do in my life. And yet to other people, it's like this wonder. So I have to think back to when I was a little kid. This is a helpful little tip that I tell my clients too, when they're writing about their businesses or talking. A lot of times we feel like our own lives and businesses are every day. So if you can think back to when you first discovered it, to when you first got into it, and bring back that wonder. And that's what I'm trying to do now, so that I can get excited over this technology that's like every day to me. So I'm remembering when I was a little kid and how I was like, wow, the computer talks. This is so exciting. So that's what it is. The computer speaks to me out loud, and it also can output the screen to a Braille display. So a Braille display, reading from a Braille display is a little bit like reading one line of text at a time. in order to deal with that and not be really slow as molasses, I have lots of commands that I use on the keyboard to be able to navigate the screen. So if I want to look for something specific, like for example, go live, I just type it in, go live, and find that button. Or I can also look for by category. So that's why accessibility on the web is so important, because people like me, I'm not going to be able to see the color of the buy button, but I am looking for a button that says buy or that says something related. So I'm looking button, button, button. How many buttons are there versus links, things like that? How many headings? And that's how I scan a page, by looking if a headline is coded correctly as a headline, then I can find it. Versus if it just seems like regular text in the programming code, then it's harder for me to find.
Wow.
So, and the point of me telling you all this is that I can do the same things you do. It's just done a bit differently.
Yes, yes, yes. This is the magic that I want to share. 2 points that come up for me that are really cool. One is perspective shifting. In what I do, perspective shifting is a power conception, and it's a unified concept. It's a huge deal. It's a superpower to perspective shift, because the more we perspective shift, the more we get to see the bigger picture. And there's always a bigger picture, right? So now you're presenting us another perspective on Facebook, on utilizing things, on doing things. But what really has come up to me, and I want to ask you now, in what you are doing specifically to do on the internet or on the computer, but like with Facebook, you need to be very aware of your organization and categorization and a conceptualized structure for what you're doing. In other words, you won't be able to access Facebook really easily and efficiently if you don't have a nice coherent structure and appropriate categorizations. Yes. And particularly
that's true.
Abstract conceptualizations. Yes.
Yes. So I'm abstract. The conceptualizations are a button, a heading, a link, concepts like that, or I'm looking for keywords on the page.
Yes. So you take all that massive information and you categorize it into particular categories, which simplifies the zillion things into a number of things that are easy to remember, right?
Absolutely, because I don't get the benefit of having something stand out visually on a page. Everything's all the same to me, unless I separate it into categories.
Exactly. Now, when we take this is very exciting to me, because a Way of Impeccability, my key program, operates on the same principle. One of the key aspects of it, the key most important parts of it, is the participant creates their own dictionary of power. The dictionary of power is a simple list of power conceptions. And when I say power, it's because they are superpower conceptions. Like, for instance, trusting without trusting, or impeccability, of course, or patience, or anything that is a top level hierarchical category or abstract conceptualization. So it's the same principle as you are using. In the same way as you say you can't see all the massive information on a page, you have to categorize to sort it. Same thing inside our head. We don't see the data inside our head, but we can organize it through these abstract conceptualizations. So the very, very same techniques that you use, we can use inside our brains to organize all of that data and information that we have and sort it into usefulness and applicable categories. So when we look at things in that way, we have these overview top-level conceptions and categorizations and tags, really, that contain this massive, like an iceberg, that all that underneath. Everything comes with those conceptions. And this is incredibly, incredibly useful. As you know, right, Krista? It makes you able to access what you can't see. Same for us in our brains. No matter whether we are, visually, we can see or not, in the physical sense, makes no difference. None of us can see inside the brain. Yes. So we need to apply the same techniques. Isn't that cool? I love it. I love it. It's very exciting. Very, very exciting. You just really put it together in a nice way. that makes it very useful, just for anybody to apply your same strategy that you use for accessing information that you cannot readily easily. We can do this with, like I said, with our learning and our growing. And I don't mean data and information that, you can Google. I mean the data and information of our personal learning. For instance, patience. Patience is a very nice overview category, right? But there's so much that goes into patience, to understanding what patience is, how it connects to, for instance, arrogance and assumption, and to your own inner integrity and phoniness, and et cetera, et cetera. I can go on for a while on patience, but I want to get back to you and what you do. I'm just going on a tangent a little bit here, because what you said of how you access the internet and Facebook is so the same technique in the abstract. It's very, very powerful. Very, very exciting. So tell us more about what you do and how you got to where you're at now and why it's important.
So a lot of how I got to where I am is by taking those small steps that allow me to take giant leaps every once in a while. So for example, when I learned to ski, well, first of all, before I even learned to ski, I had to believe that it was possible. So I had to find what I like to call the impossible people. So that's not a new group of superheroes, even though they sound like fun.
Yeah.
Actually, the impossible people are the people who were already doing what I believe to be impossible. So I didn't think blind skiing was a thing. And so that's why I had to meet them first. I had to be introduced. My martial arts sensei told me all about this wonderful ski program. And I was like, really? Wow. I don't know. I don't think I could do it. But it was one of those things that ever since I was a kid and heard about people skiing, I heard about the sensation of freedom, going down the hill, woo, I was like, that's something that I would love to try. But it was just kind of a background dream, not something I was really thinking about on a regular basis or hardly at all. And yet when it was introduced to me, when I was faced with the opportunity, I was like, I got to find out more about this. I picked up the phone. I asked a million questions. Oh, do the people get hurt? How do you guide people? What do you do? How is this possible?
Wow.
And I got some answers to the questions. Yet ultimately what I had to do was I had to actually check it out. The director said to me, why don't you come and go down to come up to Vermont with us? Because I live in New York and this program was in Vermont. And they said, why don't you come up to Vermont with us, get out into the snow and see if you like it. If you don't like it, no big deal. You'll have had a nice trip. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't have to commit to doing this right now. All I have to do is get there. So you see what I mean? How sometimes the first steps that we take to facing a fear.
Yes. Those first tiny little steps are so incredible. That's it. That's what you got to do, is take the first little tiny step. Keep going. I want to say something about steps a little bit later on. So please remind me if I forget. Bina, we spoke about this, so remind me. Stepping stones. Anyway, keep going.
I'm sorry, were you talking to me or to Bina?
No, to you. I was just, Bina, she's just listening in comments. So she'll so she'll remind us if I forget to mention it. So, yeah. Sorry. Now I was saying to you to keep going. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So taking that trip was a big step, but it wasn't so big. It wasn't impossible. It was possible.
Yes.
So in that sense, I took the trip and I literally got to go into the snow. I found out, of course, by that point, I already had some idea of how it worked, that you had wonderful volunteers who were guiding and instructing, people who were trained. This is not just, oh yeah, I want to help a blind person. Sure, I'll just go ahead and do it. No, there was a method to their madness. And although I don't know the intricacies of how it works, I do know that they are the most warm, wonderful people. And they're all about hands-on instruction when needed. And boy, did I need it, because just putting on the boots was a interesting little ordeal. Oh, I do
Oh,
not like ski boots. I hate ski boots.
interesting, interesting. Wow.
But I
Wow.
had to learn to walk in them first. And then I had to learn to get onto the skis. I heard the rustle of the people, other people skiing going by, and I felt the peppery snow in my face. And
The
I heard all these,
peppery snow.
yeah,
Wow. What an image. The peppery snow. Wow.
you
Wow.
know, the little tiny little,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I just love it. I love poetry and,
oh,
right.
thank you.
It's just a very poetic way of describing the snow. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And so I was listening to all these people having fun, and I heard the snow gun going, everything like sounded so much fun, but I was pretty scared
Yeah.
because I'd never done it before. So I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, wow, how the heck am I going to do this? And yet I wasn't so scared because I was still on the flat ground on the skis. So I was learning to balance, learning to glide a little bit. And eventually we got to the stage where they walked me up to this little hill, and the volunteer just kind of gave me a little push from behind down the hill. And it was the most exciting thing, because at that point, I was skiing, I was gliding, I was balancing. I was feeling the little tiny slope, the fall line underneath my skis, underneath my feet. I was listening for their directions, left, right, stop. And I was learning so much.
Wow. I love this. I love this. I love this. Your story, what you just said, I've heard the story many, many times. Now you say, but lots of blind skiers. No. The story in the abstract. Yes. In other words, people who've tackled something new. Like Sher, great example. Sher commenting there, right? Sher has done things which are radically different and seemingly impossible for her, but she followed the same process. Took that first step. Forget about the rest that seemed impossible. She did the smallest, tiniest step that she could do. And then she did the next step and the next step. And despite being afraid, she just kept doing that little step after little step. And then the accumulation of little steps, suddenly those little possibilities all added together. And suddenly the impossible became the possible. Yes? Was that what happened for you, Krista?
It was about taking those small steps and
Exactly.
and they built on each other.
Exactly.
They allow me to become more confident.
Exactly. What a fantastic metaphor that, this blind skiing, when, for instance, you're dealing with overcoming loss, or you're dealing with overcoming shame and guilt or tragedy or trauma, whatever it is, it's the same. We're going into it a bit blind because we don't know what there is, right? Metaphoric blind, obviously, but it's the same internally for most of us, that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's coming. But your journey, your experience here is like, man, what a fantastic metaphor. Just do, people, just do. Do those little steps that you can do. Don't be put off by what you think you cannot do, because you don't know. When you add all those little steps together, they transform your reality. That's the magic. Your reality is transformed. Our imaginations cannot imagine what it hasn't experienced. So you've got to do the things that you can do and allow it to build. I love this. This is so valuable, really, really valuable to learn. So yeah, anybody who's out there thinking you've got something new to do, you're struggling with something, whatever it is, whatever your personal issue is that you're struggling, remember the story of Christus and say, hey, you know what? This is the methodology. This is how to do it. I love this. This is very cool because, it has nothing to do with whether you can see or not see. And I don't mean to minimize this, but as you know already, we discussed this the first time we met, that I have a different view on things like this. When I see a bird, I say, well, I can't fly. Yeah. So we all have different things in our lives, or I see, my friends, they paint beautifully. It's like, man, I can't paint, whatever, we can't live in a way that's comparative. We have to be what we are, and that's it, right? And have to celebrate and do whatever you do and learn and grow and acquire new skills and new abilities, regardless of where we're at. Right. This is a big deal to me. And this is why I enjoy hearing and listening to you, because you actually make that effort to do. And this is fantastic. This is the skill to learn, right? The skill of doing, of application. Yes. Very exciting. Bina says boots of appropriateness.
That's what those are certainly the ski boots. They were appropriate, but they sure they were no fun.
Yes, what a metaphor. I don't know. Bina can think poetically sometimes. So yeah. DOP is Dictionary of Power. Yes, I'm just going through the comments there. Sure, and Bina are both graduates of Way of Impeccability, and they're enjoying the conversation, and they're very involved here. So Krista, tell us more now. I love this. I love the story. So before we go on to the rest, I'm inordinately curious, as you probably gathered by now. So how regularly do you go skiing now? I'm keen to ask.
Not too often. It's not easy to get away and go skiing.
Yeah.
That being said, I've tried downhill, cross country, and water skiing. I find them
water
all
skiing.
fun
Wow.
for different reasons.
I love that. I'll tell you a fun story with water skiing. The only time I ever water skied, I skied in a place where when you go skiing, it says, beware of crocodiles, sharks, and hippopotamus. On the same side, the same sign, crocodiles, hippopotamus, and sharks.
Wow.
Yes, wow. It's a very unusual place. It's in a estuary where the water is sort of half seawater, half fresh water. So in the same area, this harbor, it's Richards Bay in South Africa. This was a long time ago. Anyway, and so they have sharks in there and crocodiles and hippopotami. So yeah, it was a very unusual place to go. And then, of course, we went water skiing in it, which doesn't make much logical sense. But hey, that's my water skiing story, the one and only time I ever water skied. So that was kind of fun, to say I've water skied in an area where there were sharks, hippopotamus, and crocodiles. I didn't see any at the time, but they're around there. So yeah. When obviously with the boats and that, with the motorboat, it scares them away somewhat, but still, you do need to be aware. It was fun though. It was fun. Again, too, I like the thing with water skiing that you had to do something that is opposite to what you think you need to do. Right. And I love this. I have philosophy of opposite as a very big part of what I do. In that most people think when they hold the water skiing, right, they automatically want to pull themselves with their arms. But you've got to keep your arms straight and let the tow rope pull you, not you pull on the rope. Because as soon as you pull, then you fall. So you have to allow yourself to be pulled. And what a metaphor again for life. This is so often what needs to do. Yes, we need to take action, but we have to recognize when the forces of life are there to either push us or pull us. And you can't actually pull with your arms. You have to just leave your arms and let the thing pull you up. And this is something really incredible. It's amazing. Just that simple little tweak that's necessary for water skiing, right? You remember this, right? Your instructor said, let it pull you. Don't pull yourself, right? Did they tell you that too, Krista?
Which one?
The only thing that I was told with the water skiing was don't bend your arms. Don't
pull
yes.
Just it's important to be
and get pulled out. Yeah.
Yes, it's important to be straight to when you're balancing. It's important to a lot of the strength I found was in my legs more than my arms.
Yeah. Yes.
It was more that the gravity was pulling on my arms.
Yes.
And so my arms are sort of dead weight in a way.
Right.
And then my legs though, because you're not quite standing, you're not quite sitting, and you're not quite falling. So there is stamina involved in the legs, and especially in the thigh muscles. So
when I'm shift the tension,
when I'm skiing or doing anything physical, my attention, because I'm not looking in the mirror, I'm not looking at the instructor, my focus is on the physical sensations that I'm experiencing. It's a wonderful way of being present, because when my focus shifts, especially in something like skiing, I might fall, or, then I'll have to get up and start all over again. It's a way to practice that ongoing awareness of the present, because I'm not always so great at that. I tend to be very much either in the future, planning things, or in the past, trying to figure out why something went wrong, or even why something went right.
You touch on a critical skill, and that's the skill of not becoming overly immersed inside a bubble and losing our awareness in that bubble. You can't have that happen. When that happens, yes, the bubble may be entertaining, but you can get lost in that bubble, and any bubble is a limitation and a restriction of reality, and that causes lots of trouble. I like to say the number one rule of scuba diving is to always know where the surface is, because you go under the water, you're in a different world. It's very easy to actually lose a connection to where up and down and left and right is. And people can get into trouble when they forget where the surface is. And this is the exact same for awareness bubbles. Same exact thing. You get caught up in that awareness bubble, and boy, you forget where the surface is, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That there, and anytime you're focusing on one particular thing, it's easy to get into that awareness bubble where other things, you're tuning out. You're not as aware of other things that are going on. I get into those a lot.
Exactly so.
Because people, sometimes there's a stereotype that blind people are automatically brilliant listeners, and they have all these skills, and it's not really that way. What's actually happening is that we are training our skills. We are learning to focus our attention on certain things. So the fact that I can hear the bus's backup beeper from a mile away is not because I have super hearing. It's because I've been so conditioned to listen for that particular sound.
Yes. And every modality of being has its own challenges. So, you can have the skill of listening, but that could also pull you into an awareness bubble through the sounds. So it's awareness applies to no matter what you do. You have the same challenges of awareness. It's very fascinating. I want to read Bina's comments here. She says, initiating is doing, not creating, not leading, just doing. And this ability to do is more than enough. Yes, Bina, powerful, beautiful comment.
That is a beautiful comment. I didn't see that yet.
Sure. I'll read them out because I like them for the video, because not everybody always sees the comments when they rewatch it later. So I like to read the pertinent comments. Sure brings us focused back here. Very nice, Sure. Thank you very much. She asks, how did Krista find her current passion? Yes, the key question. So let's hear. How did you find your current passion?
So my current passion for learning, discovering, and then writing about it, I've always been that way since I was a little kid. I've always enjoyed telling stories. I've always had a story in my head. And also I live for those little aha moments. When you figure something out for yourself, or when you learn something new and you just say, wow, I had no idea. And all of a sudden a light bulb goes off in your head. Those are the moments that I live for. So my passion has always been that way, in that sense. And I've always been excited. I remember one particular time where I was trying to do math problems. I think I was in like 3rd grade or something like that. And I was kind of experimenting, and I figured out that I could add some basic math in my head that I hadn't been able to figure out yet before. So I was so excited. I was like, wow. And I couldn't wait to write. We had journal time or something like that in school. So that's what I wrote about in my journal. I wrote about, I figured out I can estimate in my head and then I can add. And how cool is this?
Wow.
So where maybe it wasn't, once you figure it out, sometimes it's boring to just keep doing the same thing over and over. But that moment of discovery was what I was excited about.
Yes.
It wasn't the math. If you asked me, do you love math? I would say no. But I love discovering. I love getting better and learning and bettering myself. So if I could make math into a game, then suddenly I loved it.
There you go. There you go. So you basically what you love is what the name of the group is: self-awareness, self-improvement, and self-discovery.
Exactly.
Well, it's a discussion group. I'm assuming you like discussion too. So you get more and more.
Very much so. So that's why I serve clients by helping them uncover their stories, and then I write about them, their business stories, their personal stories as they fit into business. The reason why my skiing fits into this is because the skiing was my way of sharing the story of my blindness from a strengths-based perspective.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's what I teach clients to do. I'm not a coach in that sense, but I guide them as they're talking to me, as they answer questions about what their businesses are like, how they got started, etc. I dig deep like journalists do, because I've been a journalist. I am a journalist. Wow. I ask all those questions that get to the heart of what they do, why they matter, and who cares. Not in a derogatory sense, like no one cares, but in the sense of who is it that is going to care, or that cares right now about what my client has to offer.
Wow. So all right, a quick, let me, before I ask that question, Bina says, I love your perspective shift on learning, turning obstacles into advantages. Love this, Krista. And then Cher asks, did you feel encouraged by the adults in your life?
I have. I had mentors that were wonderful people in my life. I had wonderful teachers. I also went to a camp for the blind that was called Helen Keller, because I went to school with lots of different types of kids, not just blind people. I went to ordinary public school. In the summer, though, I had a camp for the blind that I enjoyed going to every year. Some of the older kids and adults in that environment became my mentors. I could speak to them and ask questions. It's such a wonderful feeling to be able to have people in your life that aren't your parents, that aren't your boss, aren't your manager, but people that you can ask questions of because they've already done what you're trying to do.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think, did I lose you?
Yeah, I dropped off for a second on the phone, but I'm here. Keep going.
Okay, great. No, that's what I was waiting for you to.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
I want to hear more. So I'm keen on this Cher's question too, in terms of how you got from school, and then where you started, how you got to what you're doing right now. I'm curious on this journey. It just sounds like an interesting story and journey.
Absolutely, I will share with you. I've always been a writer. I wrote my first press release in high school. It was kind of more like revising it, but it was at an internship with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, because I really enjoy working with causes and working with people who are making a difference. I love to share impact and innovation. People who are doing their own discovering. I love to share about those people. Anyhow, getting back to my story, the writing led me to then write and do PR for a nonprofit for a little while, and to work with local newspapers. The thing is, the nonprofit eliminated the position and like just completely eliminated the position, didn't even replace it.
Oh, wow.
And the newspapers got bought out. So like, okay, so what do I do?
Life happened. Life happened.
Exactly. So all this time, every time I was in between jobs, every time I was trying to figure out what do I do? And at one point, the phone just, what was that? Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on. It just my phone is dropping me, but you can keep going. It's showing it on Facebook. They will hear it, because my audio and the video was separate. But I can read the transcription, so don't worry about me. Just keep going. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was distracting. I'm trying to figure out where I was. So the phone wasn't ringing. That was a big problem for me. And when I was getting interviews, they were asking for things that I couldn't do, like graphic design, web. They said, oh, do you know HTML? A little, not enough to do it for work. And I knew I couldn't be a graphic designer. I wasn't a video person, all these things that they wanted that I couldn't do. So I was confronted with all these questions of, can you? And I was having to say, I can't. And I know a lot of people get this in job search, but it's more powerful when you have a disability, because you're already being told you can't. And then when you really can't. And that's when I realized I need to be building some confidence and making some cash. No matter how little it is, no matter how much of a nothing I might feel like in terms of in the business world, I need to be doing something. And that's why I went out to get my own clients, because I knew what I could do well, even though there were all these things I couldn't do. That's how I started my business. I didn't know it was going to be a business at first, but I did know that the traditional interview path wasn't working well for me. And I was feeling horribly stuck, depressed, alone. And that wasn't a good place to stay, just mental health wise. I knew that I couldn't keep living this way. I had to make a change, or I just couldn't live that way anymore. You ever hit a point in your life where you realize some people, some people go as far as to actually attempt suicide at that point.
Wow.
But I knew that there were still other options open to me. I just didn't know where things were going to lead, but I knew that I couldn't keep, if things were just going to keep going the way they were, I didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to make a change before I got to that point where I literally thought there were no options left. So as long as I feel that there are options left, things to explore, things to enjoy, then I still want to live. Make sense?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I share in a big way in what I do is that there is always additional options. Always. No matter what, there's always another option. Always.
And we're not always able to see those options. That's why people like
issue. Correct. Yes.
That's why people like mentors, teachers, other people in our fields that have already, people who have done what we want to do are so important.
Yes.
And there have been times when in my life when I was like, well, I have nothing to lose at this point. So I might as well reach out and find people and try something different. And what I discovered was that networking was really scary. There was no Zoom.
Yeah.
And I had to walk into the room with my cane and just pray that they wouldn't focus on my blindness, even though I knew it was going to be in their head. Because I was like, I'm so much more than just my blindness, but yet the first question out of everybody's mouth is about my blindness.
Yes. You
so
are
it frustrated me to no end.
Yes.
And I take that frustration with me in the sense of when I look at my clients' stories,
Yes.
sometimes it comes up in their work too. Because the reality of it is that if we don't tell our own stories, people are going to tell them for us.
Repeat that, please.
If we do not tell our own stories in our own way, then other people are going to make up stories for us. They're going to tell the story.
Yes.
They're going to make lots of assumptions about us because they don't know us, and they're going to presume things. I realized that it was actually a powerful thing for me to come out and tell my story about blindness in a different way, rather than having to answer these questions that I was so sick of answering all the time. I could relive moments in my life where I was happy, and I could share from a strengths-based perspective how I overcame some difficult times in my life. So that presents me not in my vulnerable state, which of course I experience, but in my state of strength and my authenticity, the sense that I am being honest about the things I've overcome and the journey that I'm on.
So powerful, really. I just love this. I love this. That's why I'm so enjoying the conversation with you, because to me, what's important is the abstract psychology, the attitude, the mindset. Yes. And we tend to assume that, yes, somebody who's got a disability, we tend to overemphasize this and forget about the rest of the deal. Yes, they like you had the same struggle that many people have. They don't know what to do. I know many people have come to the same spot. It has nothing to do with whether you have a disability or not. It's life, it's circumstance, it's your awareness of option, etc., etc. And when we realize this, it changes. It changes. We all have our own struggles to deal with. It's very profound. I might have a slightly different perspective because when I was a teenager, the town that I lived in at the time had not only the largest school for the blind in the Southern Hemisphere, but also the largest school for the deaf in the Southern Hemisphere. It was a very unique town. It was very interesting. So, we played sports and went to Sunday school, and I used to play chess with a blind and a deaf fellow. He was both at the same time. And he was actually a machinist who made baskets. It was the most fantastic thing. Yeah. People always ask me when I share the story, but how did he speak? How did he hear what you had to say? He would put his hand on the side of my jaw with his thumb on my lips. His name was David. That's how he would hear me in inverted commas. And that's something, I don't know. It was just, for me, it was something else. But also through interacting with people that were different, you get to realize soon enough, I played chess with him, and well, I'm sad to say or not, I was fairly young at the time, and, was 13, 14, something like this. I used to beat him regularly, and he wasn't very amused at getting beaten by a kid. So, it made me realize that people are people. It doesn't matter what the variations are. People are people. Yeah. So
I
anyway.
know there are blind chess players, and I used to think that was impossible too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the one rule that, of course, we couldn't play is touch as a move, because because he had a special board made for him with pegs at the bottom of the chess pieces with holes in the chessboard, so you move them around like that. Yeah. So anyway,
I was shown a chessboard as a little kid, and I was told that it was possible, even if I didn't believe it.
No, it was certainly possible. Yes, absolutely. But what made David interesting to me was not just the fact that he was deaf and blind both together, and that we could communicate, but that he was a machinist. He made baskets. As a basket weaver, made baskets on a machine. This I found really fascinating to me, So it was an unusual place, like I said,
Yeah, I don't know how to weave baskets either.
Exactly. And I don't know how to operate the machine either. It's like, man, operating a machine, at the time, it's a big, fancy, complicated machine, it was very impressive to me, so
Yeah, it's all
it made
about
me
the
realize
skills.
that no matter what, we can do things. And it's just, time and patience. This is when
Sure.
for me, patience was always something I regarded as a massive superpower. And it is. That's it. With time and patience, you can achieve anything. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. Patience is truly a superpower. It's fantastic. It's
Yes, it
fantastic.
is. And I
Yeah.
freely admit it's not one that I have in spades.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Patience is not one of my, it's something that I'm growing with. It's something that I'm learning.
Okay.
So
So I'll share something on patience with you in a second. I just want to read Bina's comment. Bina says, it's unfortunate, but it seems most of us are in the same boat. The whole emphasis on you can't or I can't rather than I can. Yes. Yes, Bina. Yes. And Sher says she sees it as a conditioning. Yes, Bina. Yes, sure. It is. It is. It's just a conditioning. That's all it is.
and it's
This
good
I
for me
can.
to know that other people experience that too, that I'm not alone with being told that I can't, or having
Exactly.
a society that is,
Exactly.
so with lots of people with all sorts of disabilities have to deal with what we call societal barriers. So
Yes.
this is a situation where there are obstacles not so much put in the way by the disability, but by the society. So one of those
Exactly.
obstacles is low expectations.
Exactly.
And another has to do with accessibility. So for example, if for people in wheelchairs, if the restaurants or schools or places of worship or whatever places they want to go to, workplaces are not built with accessible restrooms and accessible public spaces, and just that if they're not set up so that someone can move around easily with a wheelchair or a walker, it becomes an issue, and then people get lonely and isolated in their homes.
Yeah.
And in the case of the blind, a lot of issues are on the web, where there are a lot of spaces. Now, a lot of places are accessible, which is why I'm able to do my job. I also use apps and other techniques to compensate, to work around when the website coders have put up barriers where it doesn't really play very well with my assistive technology. But that being said, we always strive for an environment where the content on websites is fully accessible, where a screen reader looks at this and says, oh, I know what to do with this. This is a button. I know what to do with this. This is a heading.
Yes.
I know what this image is because it's labeled correctly instead of with all these numbers and, make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's fascinating to me. It's really cool because what you are articulating in the abstract are the skills that are so potent and useful for anybody. They just are a bit more direct and obvious for you and more literal, but it's the same abstract skills. I want to connect with patients, but Sher says that's my life story. You can't. Ha! I can. I do. You are. I mean, you are doing, Sher. Yeah. You are doing right now. Yes, yes. Label your images. Absolutely, absolutely. Sher's just her story is just a magnificent, marvelous story of actually doing and overcoming things. It's a powerful story in her book. Anyway, I want to say quickly about patience. So let me ask you a couple of questions. One, you are an honest person, right, with yourself. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're a genuine person. You're real. You don't want to be a phony.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to be a phony. All right. So now let me ask you this too. And also, besides being real and genuine and having personal integrity and not wanting to be a phony, you absolutely do not ever want to be arrogant, correct?
Correct.
All right. So when you are next time impatient, right, just think to yourself or ask yourself, when you are impatient, I want to ask you this. Are you not expecting the world to operate according to your timetable?
Yes,
Yeah,
I guess in a way that's true.
you see the squirm. You see the squirm there? You're listening, people? Most people squirm a little bit because, yes, of course, you're expecting the world to work on your timetable. But the reason there's that little bit of squirm is because the implications start to kick in. Oh, crap. Oh, yes. Wow. Now that we look at impatience as an expectation for the world to work on our timetable, you sort of got to say, well, that's kind of arrogant, isn't it?
It depends on how you look at it. I mean, we all have expectations. That's how we work in the world.
Right. But we have unrealistic expectations or realistic expectations. See? So what I'm doing here now.
Sometimes impatience happens when realistic expectations aren't met too.
Right.
So
right.
it really depends on the situation. But yes, you're right.
Yes.
Sometimes impatience can be a form of arrogance. I think it's more.
Yes.
I think usually though, I think it's more like the focus is off when I'm impatient. Exactly. So the focus, when I'm impatient, my focus is on me and whatever I want to get done, like whatever I want to happen.
Yes.
So my focus is sort of like a little one-track mind kind of thing when I'm feeling impatient.
It's bubble.
It's a line.
Exactly. It's
a line. It's a straight line. It's like a little pinprick of a focus. Yes. So when I expand my focus, if I'm able to do this, then I feel more patient because I'm focusing on other things, other people, whatever else is in the environment.
Yes. So
I feel like more than arrogance, it's more about how I'm directing my attention or not directing my attention.
Right. So I was heading somewhere though. I was going to use it as leverage. We got a bit stuck on the arrogance point. Yes, arrogance is a way of looking at it, and I'm deliberately leveraging this to emphasize the arrogant aspect, because if we now connect back to your integrity and your self-honesty and your goodness and your desire not to be arrogant, right? If we now combine that, the next time you feel yourself being impatient, associate impatience with arrogance, even though it's not always maybe 100% accurate. It doesn't matter. Use it. And then say, oh, but I can't be arrogant because my self perception won't allow this. I'm a good person. I'm an honest person. And if I'm arrogant, I'm going to be a phony. So I cannot be a phony. I've got to be real. Therefore, I have to now be patient. I can't be impatient. That would make me crappy, and I can't be crappy. See what I'm saying? So we leverage this, and it's a massively valuable tool to now say, the moment you get impatient, you just connect it with arrogance and boom, it goes away. Because yes, it is arrogance in a way. And yes, there are other reasons, but when you really get down to it, okay, I'm getting caught up in my own bubble, which is.
But I also don't want to be constantly self-critical either. Like, oh, I'm such an arrogant person. So I think I have to be careful with that approach.
But no,
but there is merit to it.
Right. Only.
But I don't want to be constantly saying every time I get impatient, oh, I'm arrogant. Oh, I'm arrogant.
No. I understand that. But that's the point that I'm trying to make, though. Because you are deliberately associating it, you use it as a leveraging tool, which now you don't ever feel arrogant because you cannot. So you just don't feel impatient because the two are associated. So I'm using it as a tool not to deal with arrogance, because you're not an arrogant person. That's why this works, because you cannot feel arrogant. So immediately, if you associate arrogance with impatience, you just stop being impatient and the impatience goes away. And because now that you're aware of it, you say, I'm being, then it goes away. And I can't be, I'm a good person. I'm not an arrogant person. So I cannot be impatient. I cannot. And it helps you to
What is a more positive way to frame that in terms of what's the opposite of arrogant? What's the opposite of arrogant?
Oh, well, I'm thoughtful, I'm deliberate, I'm concerned, I'm humble. This is the opposite of arrogance.
Yeah, I like thoughtful and concerned. I really like that. If I'm being patient, I'm not being thoughtful, and I'm not being concerned.
And also my humility.
I like that better than calling myself arrogant all the time. Right. But calling myself arrogant, at least for the moment, is helpful, because it's like, oh, so the impatient feeling can come from there, can come from that place that I don't want. Come from that arrogance that I don't want.
So that's the way, because
So
we
when
don't want
so now when I'm feeling impatient, the idea is I want to be thinking about being thoughtful, being
exactly
concerned.
being deliberate, being patient, and being humble as well.
Yeah.
Because humility is understanding my who I am, how I am, and my relative connectivity to the universe, right? So when I understand the universe is so much more than me, how can I not be humble? And when I realize that, you know what, there's a lot of stuff that's in motion in the world and the universe around me, and I can't expect things to happen according to my timetable, because my agenda, my thoughts, my wants are part of a bigger picture. So I have to make allowance for that bigger picture. And, you know, the stuff of the world moves at a slower pace than my stuff. So my humility then gets me to adapt and attune my doings to the pace of the world and the universe. Right now, this is appropriateness, which is the end result of this. You want one conception to keep in mind rather than, you know, I wasn't really focusing on a negative. The idea of this was to never, ever go there and to focus on being patient rather than to focus on being impatient, right? It's not possible really to focus on being impatient because we can't do it. For me, I cannot be arrogant. So impatience just becomes an impossibility because I have those two really closely linked. So it's easy for me to be patient because I just cannot be impatient. I feel wrong if I'm impatient. It's really, if I remember at least, you know, if I become aware of it. And the key is to be aware. But then I say, what's appropriate? What's appropriate is to merge my timetable with that of the greater world. And then it's very easy to be patient because now you're doing the right thing. You're doing what's valuable. You're doing what's focused. You're being deliberate. You're being thoughtful. You're being sensible. You're acting with sobriety. It's potent. So we can shift it through association management, both in leveraging the negative and in leveraging the positive, both together.
I love
You
that.
just have to remember. Very powerful.
We have some comments coming through, like
yes.
Sure was saying that this is a discussion. This discussion is a good example of perspective shifting. And that's such a good point because I've now just shifted my perspective live on the air with all of you on the concept of what it means to be patient and what it means to be impatient.
Yes.
But most of all, what it means to be patient.
Exactly.
It's not just me saying, oh, I got to be patient, because that doesn't help me.
Exactly.
It's more, it's more, you know, because it doesn't acknowledge the feelings that I'm having. Exactly. But if I kind of stop for a moment and say, I want to be thoughtful, I want to be more concerned, deliberate. You know, how can I also, being thoughtful and concerned changes my emotional state automatically.
Exactly. And when
if I want to feel better, I don't enjoy feeling impatient. So how can I feel better? By being feeling deliberate.
Right. So when I say deliberate here, I mean it in a very, very profound way, right? In other words, when I'm being deliberate in the full concept of deliberate as an attitude, as a mindset, in order for me to live deliberately and be deliberate in my actions, that means I'm choosing the action, right? So now, when I was impatient, it was because I was feeling out of control. But if I choose to be patient, why? Because it's appropriate. It's in harmony, in rhythm with the greater universe. And I'm being thoughtful. I'm being sober. I'm being sensible. I'm being good, in other words. I want to be all of those things. Now, when I'm being patient, I am deliberately being them, which means I'm doing it as an act of profound choice. Whenever we do things as an act of choice, it changes the relationship with the thing that we're doing, right?
Well, I don't know that I can choose an emotion. However, I can choose.
Why not?
Because I don't know how to do it. But what I can choose is, what I know how to choose is that I can, unless my emotion is just so overpowering and driving, you know, but in general, I can choose to redirect my focus. So some of that stuff may come back and I may not be able to choose entirely. Like, oh, I can't choose not, like if you say, think of a pink elephant,
correct.
You know, I'm not going to be able to choose not to think about the pink elephant. But what I can choose to do is think about a I don't know, an invisible unicorn,
Yes,
you know.
but that's what I was recommending, right? With the deliberateness, to add deliberateness in there as a part of thoughtfulness. Because when I deliberately choose patience, I'm choosing to immerse in being patient, which automatically takes care of not thinking of the pink elephant of impatience. You can't not think of things. So always you've got to replace it with something, right? Because you can't not think of it, of something. It doesn't work. Your brain always thinks of it. But when you replace patience and you make patience your world, of course, impatience just automatically disappears. And this is the power of deliberately doing things, because when we deliberately do things, we can do things which are more difficult and even unpleasant for whatever. You know, the show Survivor on TV, where, you know, they're on the island, and then they at some point they always eat this horrible, terrible foods, this most disgusting things that they would never otherwise eat, right? The contestants, they eat this terrible food because it's a competition and they got to do it. And they do. They eat this most horrible, disgusting stuff that's just gross. And
Yeah, I don't
why
watch
are
that
they
show.
able to do it? Because they do so willingly. Yes. That willingness makes all the difference. So they're being deliberate. They're going into it willingly. They're being deliberate. Deliberation is a power. It's an incredible power. So when we deliberately choose to be patient because I want to, not because I have to, but because I want to, it changes everything. Now it becomes a power when I do it because I want to. That's deliberate living. It's a very powerful way of living. It's massive, 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 massive shift. You said the yellow zebra. You said something very interesting. You said about changing your moods, and you don't feel like you can. But
I
in
can't
my
just say,
experience,
oh, I want to be happy now and instantly be happy. That's what I mean.
right? Maybe not
I can't just,
instantly,
I can't
but
flip a switch.
yeah,
What I can do is change my behavior, change my attention, or at least try to shift it.
yeah,
I can make decisions that can
yes,
lead
yes,
to a different
yes,
emotion. But in the
yes,
moment, I may not be able to,
yes,
like, I
yes.
don't like the concept of choosing happiness, because I don't think it's that simple. I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
It is. It is. It is. We certainly can
If we could
learn.
just press a button, I mean, to me,
Yes,
choosing something means just that. You
yes,
snap your fingers, and with an act of will, you've
right,
made a choice.
right. Well,
And
we can
in
choose.
reality, I don't think most things are
Yeah,
that type of
right.
choice.
Right, they aren't. But here's the thing with choice, though. Choice doesn't have to be from one extreme to the other. We can choose the connecting path between where we're at and where we want to be. And when we know that it takes a little bit of steps to get from one to the other, then it's a different path. And now I'm not choosing instantly to be happy, but I'm choosing to shift from unhappiness to happiness. It may take a few little shifts, or depending on the individual, but we certainly can learn to do this. And then you go and you start to shift, and you shift a little more, you shift a little bit more, and the next thing you know, you've gone from unhappiness to happiness. And this absolutely we can learn. It's a skill like any other skill. And the more you practice it, the quicker it comes, the fewer steps in between happen. Certainly can happen. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very powerful. Brilliant, brilliant. Krista, is there anything more you wanted to share? We're getting sidetracked on lots of magical stuff here, but just in the interest of time, I want to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Go
going
on.
to sum up my 3 lessons
Please.
as a blind skier. One is find the impossible people.
Yes.
The second is to take those small steps. And the third is to not hide from your story, to instead approach it from a strengths-based perspective. And that's what I do with my clients at my Wise Words That Matter business. When I'm writing for them, I write all sorts of content, blogs, bios, ebooks, e-courses, and
Wow.
it's all about helping them to share their business stories and to share their personal stories to help them further
Yeah.
getting their knowledge and wisdom out there.
Yeah. Never mind just business people or coaches. I think anybody on a path to self-awareness would benefit from this. When you share your story with somebody like you, who then rewrites it, or at least puts it into words. They're not rewriting it. You're putting it into words for them, and yeah, you clean it up and you tighten it and you make it more focused. But the value of this is the person who's sharing this, you get to hear your story come back at you. Now you are hearing your own story, but from a slightly different perspective. Still the same story, but it's kind of fresh to you. This is massively, massively, massively valuable. I cannot recommend this enough as a self-improvement, self-awareness, self-discovery tool. Very powerful. Very, very powerful.
I like that a lot. And that's why I enjoy speaking to people. Yes. And speaking with people, and also being a guest on podcasts like this, or I've run workshops and being on panels. So I'm always open to speaking opportunities. That's why I encourage people to contact me through my Wise Words That Matter page or on my website, because I do want to continue to spread my story as long as other people say that it inspires them. If not, I want to tell different stories. Yeah. And I always want to tell different stories because I get sick of my own. Yes. But everybody keeps telling me that my story inspires them. So I do what I can to live in that space.
Yes. Yes. I would say more than your story, what is inspiring is your unrelenting positivity.
Well, that's very interesting, because if you asked all of my friends, is she unrelentingly positive? You know what they would say?
No.
Yes.
Correct. But that's the point with unrelenting positivity. It's not necessarily about being cheerful all the time. That has nothing to do with it. You can be absolutely in a bad mood and still be positive. Positive is the understanding, the acceptance, and the awareness that the future is in some way positive. That's it. If I'm in a bad mood, I keep going. Why do I keep going? Because in some place in me, there's a positivity that says keep going. So unrelenting positivity is not a cheerful mood. That's unrelenting cheerfulness, which is a whole different thing. And it's not something I recommend because, I made a post yesterday, actually. Short little post. Too much levity can dilute the soul.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in other words, if you're going to be cheerful all the time, you're going to give away your power. You need to conserve it a little bit. Something. You need to be appropriate. When you're not in a cheerful mood and you're cheerful, that drains you like crazy. It really
sure does.
But we can be positive. Sobriety, in other words, the true meaning of the word sobriety, not to do with alcohol, the mindset, the attitude, the way of being, sobriety. This is a profoundly positive state. Profound, as a super sensibility. Sobriety. Supersensibility is profoundly positive. When we say the world is a magical place, there's more to the world. The world is an awesome place. Whether I feel crap today or not, the world is still an awesome place. That's positivity. That we never let go of. That makes us unrelentingly positive. In other words, you're not giving up. You're not letting yourself slide down. Yeah, you may have a little dip here and there, but those are temporary. They're not the bigger picture. And that's unrelenting positivity, is you're always on that upward trajectory, even though there are a couple of dips, right? But it's still an upward.
Well, that's resilience, in the sense that no matter how long you're down for, you eventually get back up. So people do tell me that I have, that I'm resilient in that sense. That I may be down, but I get back up, which is what I describe about the time when I was really, really depressed in my life. That because I knew I didn't want to stay there, I knew I had to change. I knew I had to do something different.
Yes.
And that's basically what drives me, is as long as I'm feeling like I'm doing something a little differently, as long as I feel like I have something new to learn, grow, and discover, that's what keeps me going every day.
See, right there, unrelenting positivity, right there. At least that's what it means to me, right? That's you have this perpetual excitement about learning and growing and discovery. This is one of the benefits of unrelenting positivity. It makes us look at the world as being full of opportunity to learn and grow and discover. This is the benefit of unrelenting positivity. It's a magical thing.
Well, thank you for your live videos and for your Facebook group. I'm happy that you had me on today.
Pleasure. All right. So Bina and Sher are both enjoying this very much, and especially since we started so peculiarly. I would say come back another day. But now when you come back, we will talk about whatever is pertinent and relevant in our lives, yours, mine, and maybe we'll have Sher and Bina on as well. We'll have a whole group of us. Yeah. And we'll talk about whatever is the thing that's most pertinent and most relevant in our lives at that time, from a awareness, self-improvement, self-discovery perspective. Yes. How about that, Krista? Would you like to do that?
Sounds good.
Brilliant. We'll do this again sometime. Yeah, because I want to do it where we don't have the unfortunate technical issues in, and we come at the time and all that. So, and just was great fun doing this with you. So we do again. Brilliant. So, Sher and Bina are saying thank you, and they're appreciating you and enjoying you and sending you much of love. You can go through all the comments there, but I love it too. Yes, I agree. Bina and Sher, was most fun doing this with you. So brilliant.
You too. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure. All right. Bye-bye. I'm going to end the Facebook now.
Bye.
Yes. Bye-bye. Let's see.